Welcome to this edition of Head to Head. I'm your host, Cam McKinney, and this is episode number 273 of the podcast. And on this episode, I'm talking about the struggling offense of the New York Yankees. The Yankees, for the first time since 1995, are below 500 this late into the season, and there's a lot of reasons for this. They have dealt with injuries, and their pitching isn't very good other than ace Garrett Cole. But the main reason the Yankees are where they are is because the Bronx Bombers are not hitting well. As a team, the Yankees have a batting average of .231. That's 29th in all of baseball. Only the lowly Oakland Athletics are worse. They are 23rd in the league in runs. They average 3.4 runs a game compared to last season when the team had the 15th ranked batting average and scored the second most runs. The team also has the second fewest hits in the majors. Usually the Yankees have a prolific offense. I mean, think about all the great names in Yankee history. They're usually offensive players. Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Reggie Jackson, Mickey Mantle, Joe DiMaggio. On paper, the Yankees have a lot of players who are big names who are just not producing at the rate they have in the past. And the three main ones are Giancarlo Stanton, who still has power but is inconsistent. I mean, this is one of the worst contracts in all of baseball right now because the Yankees are stuck with Giancarlo Stanton. And at the time, we were all on board with this signing, and it worked the first few seasons. But now it is an albatross of a contract, and the Yankees can't get rid of him. They have to play him. He's the slowest player in baseball. I mean, you're seeing highlights of him trying to score, and he can't because he can't run the bases anymore. He has become a home run or nothing kind of guy. And then you have Anthony Rizzo, who is one of my favorite players. I loved him when he was on the Chicago Cubs, and he had a great start to the season, but he has struggled mightily in the second half. He is not the same power hitter. He's a great defender. He's a guy I want on my team, but he cannot be one of your best hitters anymore, and the problem is the Yankees were relying on him to be that. And last but not least is the one I'm most surprised about. I mean, it makes sense that Giancarlo Stanton and Anthony Rizzo have not aged well. They are power hitters, but DJ LeMahieu is a contact hitter. He's a guy who's won multiple batting titles. Why he isn't still a .280 hitter, I have no idea. Maybe it's the injuries. That has to be the case because this guy is one of the best contact hitters in the games, and he hasn't been the same the last few seasons. I mean, this has to be his last year with the New York Yankees, and I love DJ LeMahieu. He was great with the Rockies. He was all-time great with the Yankees in those first few seasons, but he has struggled mightily these last few seasons. If he's not going to be the contact hitter you need him to be, then you can't play him at the rate the Yankees have been playing him at. And one thing this season is showing is just how important outfielder Aaron Judge into the Yankees. And yes, he was the entire team last season with his 62 homers. The Yankees have always had great players on their teams, but their good teams have relied on more than one. Historically, if they have one superstar, they don't win. I remember in 2007 when it was the Alex Rodriguez show. He had 54 home runs that season. The Yankees went nowhere in the postseason. Alex Rodriguez was all-time great, but the other stars around him just weren't up to par. And then you had the entire 1980s. They had Don Mattingly. I mean, do we look back at any other Yankee during that time period and say they were great? No, it was the Don Mattingly show, and it went nowhere. They didn't make the playoffs that entire decade with Don Mattingly on their roster. I mean, think about that. They went through an entire 10-year stretch where they didn't make the playoffs and all they had was Don Mattingly. This version of the Yankees feels very reminiscent to that. All they have is Aaron Judge. There is no one else on the roster other than Garrett Cole, who isn't a position player worth talking about. Yes, I think Anthony Volpe has a bright future. I think he could be an everyday shortstop, but he's not Derek Jeter yet. And there's a strong chance he never becomes that. I mean, the Yankees have to put great players around Aaron Judge. It just can't be the Aaron Judge show. Yes, it's great that you kept Aaron Judge. I mean, think how bad the Yankees would be if Aaron Judge had left them and gone to the San Francisco Giants. I mean, they might have been the worst team in all of baseball without Aaron Judge. The only offensive player on the Yankees that people get excited about is Aaron Judge, and next season that has to change. You can't rely on one star. This isn't basketball where LeBron James can turn a 30-win team into a 50-win team. Aaron Judge can't turn a 60-win Yankee team right now into a 99-win team unless he has a 62 home run season, which isn't going to happen all the time. It was a historical season. The Yankees have to build around Judge and put together a great team. Think about the Yankees of the 90s. Yes, they had Derek Jeter, who I believe was their best player, but they also had so much talent around him. Bernie Williams, Tino Martinez, Paul O'Neill, Jorge Posada, the list goes on and on. Tim Raines, Darryl Strawberry. I mean, their role players were good hitters. They had an all-time great offense and a great mix of young players mixed with veterans like Tino Martinez and Paul O'Neill. You also had those young guys developing into stars. I mean, Derek Jeter was developing into a superstar. Jorge Posada was developing. This year's Yankees roster feels like a roster full of guys who aren't going to be a part of the future. Like they are just playing them because they're missing pieces that aren't there that they thought were going to be there. So what exactly have the Yankees done to wake up their bats? Well, they replaced their hitting coach with former big leaguer Sean Casey, who was a career 300 hitter, but a coaching change isn't enough. They need to get back to having a star-studded lineup. This offseason is going to have big changes for the organization. I could see them making a change at manager, even though I don't think it's Aaron Boone's fault. Could they get rid of longtime GM Brian Cashman? I don't think so. I just feel as though they will react the way they normally do, by spending money. They have to. You can't remain quiet this offseason. You have to spend the big money on bats. One of the things that is most concerning about the Yankees is, other than Aaron Judge and Garrett Cole, there's no one else who I think will be on the roster in 3 years. Gleyber Torres is a good, not great player who they probably will never pay big money to. I mean, he has not become the star that they thought he was going to be. He has good power. He's inconsistent. He can no longer play the shortstop position because he's not up to it defensively. Like, I believe they will move on from him this offseason. I don't think he will be a Yankee long term. And the only reason that Giancarlo Stanton is stuck there is because of his contract. The team is desperate for a youth movement. It's been a while since they developed a star player. Another factor as to why the Yankees offense is struggling is because the Yankees were banking on a lot of players being a part of their long-term future who did not work out, and they include catcher Gary Sanchez. Sanchez was once up there with Aaron Judge as one of the young stars on the team. He had immense power. He was one of the best hitting catchers, and then he started to struggle behind the plate, and that affected his offense. He did not become the star catcher they thought he was going to become. And then you have outfielder Joey Gallo. I mean, this was a guy the Yankees thought they were stealing from the Texas Rangers. They probably believed that in Yankee Stadium, Joey Gallo was going to hit 40 to 50 home runs a season because he has immense power. Well, that didn't work out for Joey Gallo. He struggled to hit 200, and he wasn't even half as good as he was with the Texas Rangers. That just feels like a small market player not working out for the big market team. That happens with the New York Yankees. You trade for a guy, you think he's going to be a star, but he can't handle the big market. The Yankees believed they were going to have 3 players every season that they could bank on hitting 35 home runs. Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, and Joey Gallo. And to go with Anthony Rizzo, that's 4 players who the Yankees thought were going to hit between 30 to 45 home runs a season. That's where all the offense was going to come from. And one of those players is no longer with the team, and the other 2 are aging. Anthony Rizzo is not the same player, and neither is Giancarlo Stanton. So So that leaves Aaron Judge and Aaron Judge alone to carry the Yankees. The problem is Aaron Judge hasn't been fully healthy this season, and even if he were fully healthy, I don't think the Yankees would have been a playoff team. There's just not enough around Aaron Judge. He can't carry the franchise for the next decade. He needs help. I know he's a superhuman. I know he can hit 62 homers in a season. I know he can win MVP, but he needs help. I haven't even mentioned the name Aaron Hicks, who was very good with the Yankees in his first few seasons in New York. Well, he struggled mightily after being given a big contract extension, and now the Yankees had to get rid of him. That's another guy the Yankees thought was going to consistently hit 20 to 25 homers and play excellent outfield defense. I mean, they have lost a lot of star power because guys haven't lived up to the names on the back of their baseball cards. So yes, you could critique them by saying that they banked on the wrong guys. Maybe they shouldn't have thought highly of Gary Sanchez, Giancarlo Stanton, Anthony Rizzo, Joey Gallo, and Aaron Hicks. But at the time, we all thought those were very good moves. And for a short-term period, those all worked out. They just didn't work out for the long term, which the Yankees thought they were, because these were young players. I mean, Joey Gallo is not yet even 30 years old. What the best teams in baseball right now have going for them is a core that you know are going to be there year in and year out. The Astros have a core group of position players who you know are going to be there for the long term. The Dodgers have a core group that you know is going to be there. Guess what? The Yankees do not have that core. They are not the Atlanta Braves. They have one position player who you know is going to be there in 5 years. That's the big difference between the New York Yankees and the Atlanta Braves. The Atlanta Braves have, 7 position players who are really good, who you know are going to be there year in and year out. The Yankees have one guy, and he's great. He's all-time great. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, but it's not enough. The Yankees have one great player. They are not a good baseball team. So who are the free agents the Yankees should go after? Well, I think the biggest name and the obvious name is Shohei Ohtani. I do believe the Yankees should be in on Ohtani because they do have a need at both starting pitcher and a big bat. I mean, I think they are desperate for his bat more than his pitching, but I think they could definitely use Shohei Ohtani. Now, will the Yankees want to put all of that money into one player? I don't know. I think they've been hurt by the Giancarlo Stanton contract. I think they're afraid to give that kind of money to an outside player because of what's happened to Stanton. So I do believe they are gun shy on giving that kind of money to an outside free agent. And if this were the Yankees of yesteryear, I would bet on it happening, but I don't know with this current ownership group. Hal Steinbrenner is not his father. Another big name is outfielder Juan Soto. Now, I love the idea of pairing Aaron Judge with a young, talented outfielder like Juan Soto because he is young. I think that is a guy who you can give a 10-year deal to and know that at the very least he is going to be consistent. Now, every year, he's not going to win a batting title. He's not going to win MVP. There are going to be superstar seasons, but I think at a floor level, Juan Soto is going to be very good for you year in and year out. I think that is a guy the Yankees can afford. Now, it might be for $400 million, but I don't think it's going to be as high as Shohei Ohtani. I do think you could get Juan Soto at a good contract. I mean, and I do think Juan Soto would want to play for a team like the New York Yankees to be paired with somebody like Aaron Judge. I don't think it's working out for Juan Soto with the San Diego Padres. I think Juan Soto wants to be a part of a winning team, and I think pairing Juan Soto with Aaron Judge would be a good start in turning the Yankees back into winners. You also have third baseman Alex Bregman. I mean, you could give him a shorter-term deal, but I think Bregman to the Yankees makes a lot of sense. I don't know if the Astros are going to pay him. They didn't pay Justin Verlander last offseason, although they retraded for Justin Verlander. I don't know if Alex Bregman is in the long-term future plans of the Houston Astros. Maybe he ends his career with the Astros. But if he is interested in joining another team, the Yankees should definitely be one of those teams interested. He is a guy who you know is going to produce in the regular season and has been there before in the postseason. He's a former MVP. And the Yankees desperately need to upgrade the shortstop position. Ralph Kiner for Leffa isn't getting getting the job done. He is a good defensive player, but an abysmal offensive one. The name I'm looking at that is a good free agent option for the Yankees is shortstop Willie Adames. He played for the Rays. He can hit in the AL East. He has a surprising amount of power. No, he's not going to drive in 100 runs. He's not a superstar player, but the Yankees need production at the shortstop position, and I believe the ideal candidate, at least in the free agent market, is Willie Adames. It's going to be interesting to see if this Yankees team is a short-term fix or a long-term one. Like, are the Yankees going to be back next season? Are we going to say they are back in business? Well, it is going to depend on their offseason and what happens with their young players. If somehow Anthony Volpe becomes a star shortstop, then everything changes for the New York Yankees. It's just right now hard to feel good about what they have on paper. That's why they have to do something this offseason. I don't think they're going to have one of those wild off seasons like they did in 2008 when they brought in CC Sabathia, AJ Burnett, and Mark Teixeira, but I will say they are in need of one of those off seasons because Yankee fans, what do they have to be excited about right now? You have Aaron Judge, he's a great player, but he's not enough to make the Yankees a World Series winning team. I'm not used to the Yankees being a bad team, and I say this as a fan of the Red Sox. It's good for the sport of baseball when the Yankees are at the very least relevant. They are a staple franchise. No, you can't win the World Series every year, but the team needs a reset. And I do hate those people who say, well, if the Yankees don't win this year, it was a complete and utter failure. Nobody feels that way. It's impossible to win the World Series every season, but you are the New York Yankees. You should put together a very good product full of players that your fans like. I mean, how many players on the Yankees are fan favorites right now? I mean, even when they went through some rough patches, they always had fan favorites. You had Derek Jeter, you had Jorge Posada, you had Andy Pettitte. You were at least giving the fans a very good product. This year, there haven't been many of them. I don't feel like Gleyber Torres is a fan favorite. Aaron Judge is, Garrett Cole is, but there's so many position players. I mean, I remember when they had a guy like Nick Swisher. I love Nick Swisher. He's the type of guy I'm talking about. He's a good player. He's a fan favorite. He's a guy that fans will root for. The Yankees right now don't have a lot of Nick Swishers on their roster that fans actually care about. Get back to having players on your roster that your fans care about. I also wonder which fan base feels better about the future of their team, the Yankee fans or the Mets fans, because both New York teams went through an extremely hard baseball season. But the Mets, at the very least, have a core. You can see the core. They have Pete Alonso. They have Francisco Lindor. They have young players who they can build upon. The Yankees are missing that core. At the very least in baseball, you need two great positional players. I mean, think about the great Yankees teams of the past. They had Babe Ruth and they had Lou Gehrig. The Red Sox teams had David Ortiz and Manny Ramirez. Right now, the New York Yankees have only Aaron Judge. Get Aaron Judge a partner in crime who can mash 35 to 40 homers, and then the Yankees will be back in business. Adding one superstar player won't change everything, but it will make a huge impact on the roster and will at least get the Yankees back to relevancy. I'll leave you with this. All you need to know about the Yankees' struggles is that Aaron Judge leads the team in home runs despite only playing in 72 games this season. He's a great player, but he's missed a ton of time this year. The Yankees need to be more than Aaron Judge, or they will continue to have more seasons like this one. You don't want Aaron Judge to be the next Yankee who doesn't end up winning a World Series. You don't want Aaron Judge to be the modern version of Don Mattingly. The Yankees have to do everything in their power to put Aaron Judge with a lot of talent so he can compete to win the World Series, because baseball needs Aaron Judge in the postseason. Baseball needs these great players. Don't let Aaron Judge become like Mike Trout, who's just putting up numbers on a bad baseball team. We will find out very shortly if this season for the Yankees is a blip on the radar or more of what's to come. In the next few weeks, we will also see how upset Hal Steinbrenner is about this season's failure. Will he fire longtime GM Brian Cashman? I understand going that route. Brian Cashman has not had a good season, but he is the architect of that Yankees team in the 90s. He's won multiple World Series titles, and I believe he should be given a chance to fix this Yankees roster because I do believe he's one of the best executives in baseball. Thanks for listening to this edition of Head to Head. I'm Cam McKinney, and there'll be a new episode of the podcast every Monday on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, so please rate, review, and subscribe.